Good morning, Mount Calvary. It's good to see you on this Saturday as we wrap up our text for Acts chapter 2. We're going to answer a burning question. Well, we're not. The text, the writer of Acts is going to tell us, Luke, he's going to tell us the answer to a burning question. We're going to get to that, but I first want to read the entire passage to you of Acts chapter 2, the section that we've been reading, and then we'll jump into that question and then what the text tells us about it. All right, so here it is. The words should come up on your screen. The believers devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the community, to their shared meals, and to their prayers. A sense of awe came over everyone. God performed many wonders and signs through the apostles. All the believers were united and shared everything. They would sell pieces of property and possessions and distribute the proceeds to everyone who needed them. Every day they met together in the temple and ate in their homes. They shared food with gladness and simplicity. They praised God and demonstrated God's goodness to everyone. The Lord added daily to the community those who were being saved. Now, the number one question I get as a pastor from my people, one of the main questions that Christians ask their pastors, I'm sure, across the board, it's a question that many of us really grapple with, especially in our day and age when the church isn't the center point of culture, of society as it once was. It's a question that is simple. It's how do we get more people here? How can more people be part of our community, can be part of what God is doing here in our wider community? How can they be part of our congregation, our family of faith? And a lot of us Christians, we spin our wheels and we try everything. We throw spaghetti against the wall. We hope it works out. And, a lot of Christians are getting kind of discouraged because everything we're trying isn't really working. Even the large churches that once were the pinnacle of what it meant to be Christian in America, although I question if that's really what it should have been, they're still struggling. And some of those large churches, they're no longer so large. So how do we do this? A lot of people think that the way this happens is we have to be good evangelists. We have to be good people to go out and knock on everybody's doors. We got to go and sell people Jesus. And we've done a lot of work in Mount Calvary to really try to convince you that selling Jesus is not how this works. Right? Selling Jesus on his content, whether that is by making people afraid of hell so much that they come, or whether that's to say that Jesus is the answer to all their problems. Selling Jesus is not the way that it happens, folks. And the sooner we move away from that as a congregation of Mount Calvary, and the sooner we move away from that as Christians in general, the better we will be. Because notice what our text tells us. It wasn't selling Jesus that added numbers to the day, to the community. The end of verse 47 says, the Lord added daily to the community those who were being saved. Now that might not seem like an answer right away. Let's look at the entire context of the passage to be able to answer the question, right? To be able to understand why the Lord was adding numbers. The entire context is that the church was living like a church. The church was living like the body of Christ. The community of believers were being the church rather than going to church. This is why we're spending so much time on this passage. We're going to do more next week with Acts chapter 4 because there's a similar story there. But you want to know how you show people who Jesus really is? We show it to each other. We live life with one another well. We don't think about the church as the way that we've typically thought about it. And here I am going to preach just a little bit. I can't help myself. I apologize. But the coronavirus, one of the gifts that it has given to our church, and I don't want that to sound terrible. I don't want that to mean that it's worth it. It certainly is not worth it. There's so much that we could be working through otherwise. It's not worth it, right? People are dying, and nothing is worth that. But as people, we try to seek for meaning, as we also try to help. If you haven't been listening to these videos, listen to them. There are ways that we're trying to help out here as a community of believers in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So it's not that it's worth it. It certainly is not. I wish we could learn this lesson in a different way. Having said that, it still is a gift that we can get from this coronavirus pandemic, what's happening to us as people. We can learn what it is to be the church. Because we can no longer gather in the way that we have, because we can no longer come together on Sundays, because we can no longer escape from reality by going to Jesus, we now have to live with Jesus in our reality. We have to live with other people in our reality. And that changes so much. It shows us that by living with other people, by doing everything we saw in this entire passage of Acts chapter 2, starting at verse 42, when all that is happening, notice what's not happening. What they're not saying is they're not saying we're preaching wonderful sermons, we're having fantastic programs, we're having beautiful church buildings, we're having wonderful, fantastic events. None of that is being said here. What is going on is that people are living the way that God intended us to live as people, and then they are living also as the church at the same time. And by doing that, that's when the Lord adds to their numbers. Listen to me. I'm not usually this strong, but you've got to listen to me. We need to move away from the idea that putting on a production, whatever that production looks like, is what brings people to the church. It is not. That's where that argument of traditional versus contemporary all comes into play. It is not about that, folks. Living like the community in Acts chapter 2 and Acts chapter 4, the early church in general, that is how it happens. It's not rocket science, but for us it seems to be. Right? For us, it seems to be a big challenge, a big hurdle for us to get over. So today, all I want you to do is dwell on this reality. The reality is that God added to the numbers of the community when the community was living like it needed to, like it was called to, like it wanted to. And this pandemic gives us an opportunity to do that as well. We can regroup, we can restructure, we can rethink it, and when it comes to the other side of what we're going through, hopefully at the beginning of May, who knows? That calendar keeps moving as we talked about, but whenever it ends, we jump in and we start living this way now, and we learn the lessons we need to so that we can continue learning that, living that way into the future. And may God bless us by adding more to our community so we can share our lives with more people. We can share God's goodness with more people. We can share our stuff, our money with more people and live as God would have us live. Thank you for joining us for our Bible thought today. It was more of a sermon. I apologize. This is important. This is what matters to me. It's why I'm a pastor. I'm not a pastor to give you wonderful sermons. I'm not a pastor to make sure that you have a wonderful church building and wonderful programs. I'm a pastor because I want you to live as a community with me and then show that love to everyone else. Come back tomorrow here on YouTube at 9:30. That same time, we're going to have a home worship that we're going to do together. And then we will come back next week on Monday for our engagement with Acts chapter 4. We'll see you tomorrow. If you haven't already, please check us out on Facebook. You can go to facebook.com/mtcfw. And when you go there, you'll see a lot of our updates that we have. We're doing a kind of a news update each day at 5 o'clock. And we're also doing a live prayer time together at 8:30 in the evening. I really want to encourage you to join us on Facebook so that you get those streamed to you, so that you get more information about what's going on. You can also check us out at mtcfw.org. Specifically, on the top menu when you get there, there is a link to our online campus. If you click there, it will take you to a temporary page where we have everything that we're doing during this COVID-19 time. And that includes what our worship looks like, what our Bible studies look like, and also what everything else kind of looks like. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can, of course, reach me at both of those places. There's information there, but the primary way is through my email. You can contact me at pastornate@mtcfw.org, and there you can ask me any questions. You can give me any feedback. I'd appreciate feedback. We're trying our best, and we're learning on the fly, and anything that you have to offer to show me how I can improve is incredibly helpful. But thank you for watching today. We'll see you next time.